the National Insurance Act already provides for people to get their pension, their NIS pension, at age 65. So once you're age 65 and you have made your 750 contributions, whether you're working or you ain't working, you will get your NIS pension. That is already in the Act. The second point is that quite a number of workers retire at age 60, and the law provides that when they retire at age 60 and they stop work, they can make the application to get a pension from NIS and they will get their NIS pension. So that's already in the law. So it's not really about extending the retirement age to 65. The retirement age is already there in the Act. What they are not saying, and this is what I want you all to consider very seriously, what they are not saying publicly is that for each year that you retire before age 65, your NIS pension will be reduced by 6%. That is the proposal.
That is the proposal in existence, or is that being proposed anew?
That is the proposal now.
A new proposal?
No. That is the proposal that came from the 10th actuarial report, which was approved by the Board of Directors and forwarded to the Minister of Finance and tabled before the Parliament.
When?
More than 2 years ago, or 3 years. The 10th actuarial report came out a little while now. So all of that was laid in the Parliament. That is the proposal that is being tabled before the unions. In fact, I recall very clearly when I used to work with the Banking, Insurance and General Workers Union. There was a meeting which I had attended with representatives from the NIB, and they presented a table to reduce the NIS pension for those in classes 12 to 16. So the reduction in NIS pension is what you ought to concern yourselves with. For each year before age 65, they will cut your pension by 6%. Thousands of workers have already paid 750 contributions. They must pay double the amount. So they are in fact entitled to it, but when they retire, they want to cut the people thing. And of all people you want to inflict these measures on is poor people. People who are going to retire, they have nothing else to live on. How could anyone be so conscienceless and heartless to cut people NIS pension? But that is outright wickedness. And you know why? The report said in the 9th report that the NIS pension of $3,000 per month is too generous. So they're telling me we're getting too much money. We don't pay for it, you know. The law requires that we pay. We had no say, no choice, nothing. They take it out of our salary. We paid for that. We're entitled to it. And they're telling me we're getting too much. They went on to point out in the 10th report that the NIS pension was 115% above the minimum wage. And the proposal that they put in the report was to bring the NIS pension down to 80% of the minimum wage. That is why they want to cut it, 6% each year. And come to talk about a set of cock and bull stupidness about how people living longer. So you want to punish people for living longer? The only people who I know so heartless against working people is capitalists and the 1%. It would come from a mindset like that. are saying that when you retire at age 60, the net reduction of your NIS pension will be about 30%. Even though you have paid all the necessary contributions for it. They want to cut your pension. Why? Because you retired age 60. If you retired age 65, you ain't going to get no cut. That is the proposal. It's not about extending the age. It's not about asking you to work to age 61 or 62 or 63 or 64. It's not that. It is about what age you retire at in order to entitle you to a full NIS pension. And they said so in the report. And the report was approved. And it's going to the parliament now. We have to put a stop to this stupidness, where every time we have a problem in the country, the first solution is to cut the workers' benefits. That could never be the way to deal with this issue. Pauperizing people who are already poor could never be a solution to any problem a country faces. What they have to do is to fund the system properly. Imagine every single year. It is shameful, disgraceful. Every single year NIB had to send out the compliance officers to go and collect arrears. Hundreds of millions of dollars people owing. They just be collecting in arrears. And the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister told the nation that the reason why people didn't get the grant when the lockdown had taken place was because they found out that many employers, they weren't registered for NIS, they weren't registered for tax, for PAYE, they weren't registered for nothing. But what are they doing? That is a criminal offense. The law says so. That when you take out the money and you don't pay it, you can be prosecuted before the magistrate and 6 months in jail. But nobody makes a jail. Because the system is not geared to put pressure on them, it's geared to put pressure on us. You hear much times the minister talking about people who double dipping. Are they coming to take action on this one and that? But they're not going against the employers. And if they do that, then half of the problem NIB facing today, they wouldn't be facing that. And by the way, let us get this record right. The reason why NIB ended up in the situation that it did at the time of the actuarial report was because the investments, the return from investments fell. Had nothing to do with people living longer. We actually said the single largest contributor to NIB's financial distress was the decline in investment portfolio, about $4 billion. It dropped by that. I mean, the thing has picked back up now. But it had nothing to do with fertility rate and mortality rate and this rate and that rate. But I want to come to this point now, to close off my thoughts with you on it. What we are seeing with NIS pension and the attack on our benefits, concerted, outrageous attack on poor people, is no different from what the workers in this country have been facing. 8 years without an increase, and then you come to offer them 0, 0 and 1. All of us have a responsibility to decide where this country is going. We must have a debate. Is this the kind of society that we want? Is this the kind of future that we want? After you work all your life trying to enjoy your retirement, they come in to cut your money. And don't feel it's stopping there. It is stopping there at all. You know what they say in the report? That the senior citizens pension is 135% above the minimum wage. So if NIS pension is 118% above the minimum wage and they want to bring it down to 80%, what are they going to do with senior citizens pension? That up next. Believe you me. Time to put on all your foot.